Okay, let's dive into this explainer. We are going to completely strip away everything you and I know about modern life to look at human existence in its rawest, most unfiltered form. I was absolutely blown away learning about the reality of the hadza. They are arguably the most primitive tribe living on Earth today. It's like looking through a literal window into our deep past. We're talking about a nomadic people who are entirely off the grid, relying 100% on hunting and gathering, and surviving exactly as they have for millennia.
I really want you to try and imagine this for a second. What is it actually like to wake up in the wild Tanzanian savannah, knowing that uncertainty is waiting behind literally every bush? There's no farming, no grocery stores down the street, and absolutely zero safety nets to fall back on. It is just you, your tribe, and your ability to track, hunt, and forage before the sun goes down. The Hadza live a life of pure, unadulterated survival. It's a deeply unchanging reality that really forces us to question everything we take for granted about our own comfort and security.
And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer mind-boggling scale of their isolation. The Hadza have been living near Lake Eyasi in northern Tanzania for over 50,000 years. Let that number sink in for a second. 50 millennia of a sustained, virtually untouched way of life. Yet, they only made their very first contact with the modern world around 150 years ago. So for 49,850 years, their existence was entirely self-contained. They were completely oblivious to the rise and fall of massive global empires happening right outside their territory.
But living exactly like our ancient ancestors comes with a pretty brutal reality check. 32. That is the average lifespan of a member of the Hadza tribe today. In an era where modern medicine has pushed our life expectancy well into our 70s and 80s, seeing a number like 32 is just a startling, sobering reminder of the unforgiving nature of the wild.
Now, to really understand that shocking 32-year average, we have to look a bit closer. It's not just that adult life is exceptionally harsh out there, though believe me, it certainly is. That low average is heavily driven by a devastating infant mortality rate. Typically, a Hadza woman gives birth to 4 children, but only 1 or maybe 2 of them will actually survive. Up to half of all newborns just don't make it. It's a heavy, sobering testament to the physical toll this environment extracts from the very moment of birth.
Section 1. The Art of the Hunt. So how do they actually survive these odds every single day? Well, they rely entirely on the hunt, using completely customized bows and arrows. The hunters will even carve unique patterns into the wood just to identify who made the lethal shot. But they aren't just relying on sharp sticks here. They use highly sophisticated ancestral biochemistry. They craft this lethal arrow poison straight from the desert rose tree. The step-by-step process is honestly fascinating. They cut a bough, boil it with cold water, simmer it all the way down to a thick essence, and finally mix it with ash, crushing it with a stone into this black, sticky paste. They carefully coat their customized arrow tips with this stuff, turning a simple wooden shaft into a total game changer for taking down large prey.
Okay, and when a hunt actually is successful, the diet they eat is incredibly raw. I mean, it completely blew my mind to learn that they eat rock hyraxes, crunching right through the soft, popping bones. They even consume the half-digested stomach acids and waste of their prey. Add to that honeycomb filled with live, squirming larvae, bush babies hunted straight out of the trees in the dead of night, and muddy, parasite-filled water they just drink right out of the pond. When you realize all that, you see that their immune systems are basically superpowers. They effortlessly handle bacteria that would put most of us in the hospital for weeks.
Section 2. Life beyond time and numbers.
It's not just their physical biology that's adapted differently, it's their entire cognitive framework. Think about it. Modern society is completely obsessed with exact time tracking and infinite math. But the Hadza communicate using this unique, click-based language called hadzane, and it structures reality in a totally different way. For instance, in traditional hadzane, the only numbers are 1 and 2. Anything beyond that, it's just a general concept of many. And even more fascinating, they don't use calendars, no clocks, no time-based celebrations like birthdays. They don't even have a concept for the future. Actually, scratch that. It's more like they exist entirely 100% in the present moment.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how they handle trade in a society that is completely devoid of money. For the Hadza, honey is literally liquid gold. It's packed with the dense, sugary energy they need to survive the wild, which makes it their most consumed food. But it also acts as their only real currency. They will willingly endure hundreds of bee stings just to gather it, and then they'll trade this super precious resource with neighboring tribes for things they can't make, like sharp metal tools, glass beads, shoes made out of old tires, and corn flour.
Section 3. A culture under threat. Sadly, this ancient, beautifully adapted way of life is facing an unprecedented crisis right now. The modern world that they ignored for 50,000 years is finally knocking at their door. Just look at this staggering reality. Over the last 50 years alone, the Hadza have lost 90% of their ancestral lands. 90%! Neighboring tribes have cut down trees for agriculture and livestock, which has driven away the very wildlife the Hadza desperately rely on. So now, they are confined to a mere 10% of their original territory, making hunting, gathering, and just basic everyday survival drastically more difficult. They are a window to our past, but guys, that window is rapidly closing.
In the wild, when the environment changes, you absolutely have to react. During the documentary team's time with the tribe, they actually witnessed a hunt where these incredibly clever baboons literally waited for the camera lights to go out so they could escape in the pitch dark. They were perfectly exploiting human visual limits. It's a moment that perfectly encapsulates this overarching truth. Survival doesn't always favor the strong or the smart, it is about being the most adaptable. The animals are adapting to the hunters, and the Hadza are being forced to adapt to a rapidly shrinking world.
Section 4. The Creator's Survival Fight.
And this constant need for adaptation brings us to an entirely different kind of survival fight. Documenting a culture that has been unchanged for 50,000 years is a massive undertaking, right? But the creator who ventured out to the Tanzanian savannah to bring us his incredible story suddenly faced a devastating digital survival crisis of their own. In a single, heart-stopping moment, hackers hijacked the creator's channel and deleted 12 entire years of documentary history with one click. Poof. Everything was erased. Now, while the team did eventually recover the backup files, the digital ecosystem had already moved on. The algorithmic penalties hit them incredibly hard. Views plummeted, and their monthly earnings dropped instantly to zero.
Now, to really understand why a sudden digital erasure like that is so catastrophic, you have to look at the immense global human effort behind these projects. Bringing the undocumented world to our screens is not just one guy running around with a camera. Just to create the Hadza documentary alone took a massive global team of 314 contributors. We're talking about 278 voice actors and 28 translators working tirelessly for 3 straight months, all just to ensure the story could be broadcast in 14 different languages. The sheer scale of bringing these fragile cultures to a global audience is truly massive.
So the crucial point is that all of that immense effort leads to a pretty brutal financial reality. Because of the hack and the resulting algorithmic drop we just talked about, the team is facing a severe $75,000 expected loss for the year. For an independent channel trying to compete on a global scale and fund incredibly complex expeditions in hostile environments, a deficit like that is crippling. It permanently threatens their ability to film and produce any future documentaries.
Just as the Hadza must adapt to a shrinking territory, independent media has to adapt to these sudden digital crises. So, the creator is making an earnest, urgent appeal. If you value seeing the raw, unfiltered corners of our Earth, they really need your direct support. By utilizing the Super Thanks feature, you can actually step up and directly fund their next massive scientific expedition. We're talking about a planned journey to the Krubera Cave, the deepest cave in the world, stretching 16 kilometers underground, where totally undiscovered animal species are likely waiting in the dark. Because ultimately, the physical survival of the Hadza and the financial survival of the media that brings us their story are deeply, deeply intertwined. Both require constant adaptation just to exist in a harsh, shifting landscape, which leaves us with a critical, provocative question to ponder today. What do we lose as a civilization when we stop supporting the independent documentation of our world's most fragile cultures? When that window to our past finally closes for good, who will be left to tell us where we came from?